Fantastic. Thank you all for that. This is a great place to find other Tableau users, connect with them on LinkedIn, common interests. This is fantastic. Hello, hello. On behalf of our user group organizers, welcome to our inaugural Advancement Tableau user group. We're delighted that so many of you have joined us. Although this is just our first gathering, our community has already grown to over 350 members from 160 plus organizations. It speaks to how much interest there is in analytics throughout the advancement community. This user group is about you. It's about sharing, learning, and connecting. And some of you may be thinking, as I did 13 years ago, that mastering Tableau would be an elusive goal. But as I now tell my students, you simply need the knowledge and have the persistence, creativity, and that intellectual curiosity to ask that next question. And there's always something new to learn. For those who don't know me, I'm Ron Eisenstein. I'm a co-founder of the Solus Group. Before starting our firm and becoming Tableau partners, I worked for many years in DePaul University's Office of Advancement, where I led our fantastic advancement services team. I'm delighted to be joined by three wonderful, talented, and nice advancement leaders, Jesse Rader, John Gough, and Mohammed Dasser. We'll be working with you on creating programming that's of interest to you, because this user group is for the community and by the community. And with that, I'm going to continue the introductions and pass it on to my colleague, Jesse.
Thanks, Ron. I'm Jesse Rader. I am the Senior Director of Data Insights and Analytics at the University of Nebraska Foundation. I am definitely the newest Tableau user of this group. I've only been using it about 2 years. We've been really excited what we have already got to do with it, and are looking forward to getting new ideas from you all as well. John?
Thanks, Jesse. Hi, everybody. John Gough, currently at UT Austin, as you can see there on the screen. Really excited to be with everyone today as part of this inaugural user group for advancement. I've been using Tableau for, gosh, over 6 years now, and just really excited to be here as a part of this community and connecting and learning together. Hand it over to you, Mohammed.
Oh, you're muted, Mohammed.
There we go.
There we go.
Hi. Sorry about that. My name is Mohammed Dasser. I'm with NYU UDAR, University Development and Alumni Relation Division. I've been here for about 3 years now. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar names. Thank you all for joining us today. Some facts about my journey with Tableau. I introduced Tableau to the last 3 institutions I worked for before NYU. I led the procurement and the first batch of licensing. I initiated the training for the advancement team. I developed the first 2 or 3 dashboards as proof of concept. I can tell you that it was not easy to do that first time introducing Tableau to the shop and to the executive team. But so far, my understanding is all the 3 shops embrace Tableau software and continue to use it as their core BI analytics solution until today, 3-4 years later. When I got to NYU, I did not have to do procurement as our campus IT already had Tableau as an enterprise deployed for 2 years before my arrival, but our UDAR shop did not produce any content to the production site. All I had to do is put some content on our UDAR site, and now, as of today, I can share with you that we have 50+ dashboard on Tableau production site, and we formed a new team, 9 analysts to support just BI analytics initiative, Some of them are with us today under the leadership of an executive director of BI Analytics, and she also attended with us today. Hi, Christy. Enough about me. Let's talk about this advancement Tableau user group. Vision and mission. This sounds like cliche, but I can assure you that the four of us are very sincere about the statement we put out there. And I trust that our Tableau sponsor are also supporting the vision and the mission we put out there. Then, well, what we want, actually what we needed is a safe space for our advancement colleagues to come and collaborate and seek and share knowledge. And that's what this is about, right? My personal experience when I attend other Tableau user groups, I get very excited. I'm impressed with the shared content, the presentation, the approach, the use cases. But then when I have to translate all that to advancement language, before I can take advantage of it, and sometimes I can't even when it's higher ed, the user group, I can't translate the student, the finance, all that to the gift and to the prospect. And that's why we needed this space. And that's, I think, why there is enough of you coming here today, because we needed this space since all the other industry doesn't meet our kind of like level of standards in advancement. That was the vision. How about the mission? Our goal is to be able to make this space accessible to everyone, not just the expert. And I don't consider myself an expert either, but most of us do not need that expert level to do level of detail or LOD or embedded Python script to do our work. We just need that just to get to the basic, right? And we want this space to be available to some of us that just acquired their first license and want to share their first dashboard, and have other attendees that may still trying to secure approval for their first Tableau license to learn from other success story. Then this space is going to be available to the expert that push the limit, the platform use cases, and allow us to see what's possible beyond the basic, but also want to make this space available for the newcomers, the ones that are still trying to secure executive level sponsorship for acquiring Tableau as a platform. We will review a list of all you who indicated that you have interest in your registration form to reach out. We will reach out, we will learn from you how you want to contribute to this, and we will try to balance the next session to have the expert and the non-expert working together to benefit our advancement community. And it doesn't matter where maturity level you're in, you should be able to take something back to your shop from here. And if you are interested, just reach out to one of us, and we will work with you in what can be your contribution and how you want to, and what capacity you want to be part of this group. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, John, if you want to add something.
All right. Well, I think that's my cue to go ahead and jump in here and get started on the program portion of our meeting today. I'm really thrilled to be able to be the first presenter here with this user group, and wanted to give a big thank you to Ron for his leadership in pulling Jesse, Mohammed, myself together for his interfacing with Tableau. So a big shout out to him. I want to thank Tableau, obviously, for their support in helping us get this together. So I'm going to jump into a bit of content, which is focused around using Tableau for prospect reporting specifically and for prospecting. So the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to demo 2 Tableau reports that we use here at UT Austin as tools in prospecting. One for prospecting proper. So what I mean by that is when we think about trying to find prospects to add to portfolios, it's a tool that we use to do that. And then another tool that we use to actually manage the prospect pipeline. So I will walk you through both of those reports. But before I do, I wanted to, because I'm always fascinated as to how people distribute their reports within their institutions, quickly do a screen share to our reporting website and embarrass this reporting team right here. So everything I'm going to present to you today has been produced or aided by this group of people right here on your screen. So I really want to give them a solid shout out. It's been hours of tinkering, knowledge sharing that have gone into producing the products that I will be walking you through today. So I wanted to recognize this really wonderful team of people here. So the way we distribute our reports at UT Austin is we are on a bespoke CRM system called VIP. So we have had to build a standalone WordPress site to distribute our reporting from now, which is what's in front of you. So as you come here, you can see that we have links to a variety of different reports, starting at sort of the high senior executive level, program level for just, what we call the D suite here, which are our fundraising productivity reports, gift officer metrics, that type of a thing. All the way down to our campaign reports. We are currently in the silent phase of campaign, launching the campaign publicly next March. So we have a whole suite of reports, Tableau reports specific and germane to the campaign. And then we have a variety of different unit specific reports. So all in all, I'm not going to obviously show you everything here. We have 60+ Tableau reports that are in production currently in aid of our development and advancement efforts here at UT Austin. So let me switch over now, and I will begin, like I said, by showing you these two different reports. So I will start with the what we call the engagement dashboard here at UT Austin. Now, this was the brainchild of Juan Garcia, who is our AVP for Advancement Services and also our campaign director. And the problem that we were up against at the time that we were trying to solve with this particular tool was the fact that we had a very limited ability to view an officer's portfolio holistically and at a glance to get a sense of, okay, where are the trouble areas? Where do we need to focus our attention as a prospect research team, as advisors, and also as gift officers, as we're working in tandem to make sure that we've got the right people in our portfolios and that we're managing the portfolio churn as an effective, there it is, way as possible. So what we came up with, and I apologize, it's going to be a little small on your screens to begin with. I will do my best to zoom in here in just a minute. Is this what we're calling a prospect engagement dashboard? So really quickly, let me walk you through what this does. This is, in essence, a visual representation of our prospect management policy that was put together by our prospect research team and executive leadership. One of the key components to this prospect management policy is an emphasis on visiting prospects. So making sure that you are working your portfolio. So it is written into our policy that if a prospect is not visited by their manager within a 12-month period, that prospect will be reassigned to another portfolio. So we're trying to keep our portfolios obviously really small to benefit or to really help officers hit that target, right? I think our average portfolio size is about 120 prospects. That would probably be the maximum that we look for in a portfolio. So what you see in front of you, and obviously I need to disclaim that all of this has been anonymized. I've populated this with some fake data. So this is not actually UT's numbers here, nor are these UT's officers, but this will give you a sense of how this tool works. So what we've done is in essence, like I was saying, tried to capture visually that policy and where any individual's portfolio stands at any given time, broken out into this tree that you see in front of you. So let me break down the different components here. So we start at the top of the tree, and you can see here that there are 105 managed households in this officer's portfolio. We do this by household and not by individual here at UT Austin. To the right of that, we have what's called a portfolio engagement metric. So what this is the percentage of that officer's portfolio that has been visited within the last 12 months. Now, pre-pandemic, that visit had to be an in-person visit. Post-pandemic, we are counting Zoom and conference calls and that type of a thing. We've brought in the definition a little bit of that metric, but essentially these are substantive contacts moving the relationship forward with that prospect. Our target here at UT is to have 75% portfolio penetration for each gift officer. So you can see our fictional officer here is just under that target at 60% currently for their portfolio. Now, to decipher these dollar amounts that are over here to the side, we've got at the top the sum of the estimated gift capacity for the portfolio. So we would say that this officer's portfolio is valued at $500,000 here. Again, these are fictional numbers. The next number down is the sum of the targeted ask amounts. So this is planned proposals, essentially. This is what the officer plans to ask of their portfolio. So you see here, it's 459,000. And then finally, just for at a glance, we can see the number of dollars that are out there and currently open proposals. So $51,000 for this individual portfolio. So now this is where we start to break things down a little bit and get a sense of the activity that's occurring within the portfolio. It's important to us, obviously, in this policy where we're requiring that they visit everyone within a 12-month period, that we understand who's been managed for more than a year and who's been managed for less than a year. So the next step down in this hierarchy splits the portfolio out by duration of management. As you can see here, the 46 have been in this portfolio for less than a year, 59 for more than a year. Then let me just grab a branch and work our way down this way. So for managed less than a year, this is more informative. We're not as concerned about the activity here. Obviously, we want to make sure that things are moving. So we look next at the visits as this feeds into that penetration metric. So who in this portfolio has been visited in the last 12 months, who hasn't? Next level down, who of those folks have been solicited in the last 12 months and who have not? And then finally, we've added this contacted. So who's been contacted in the last 12 months and who hasn't? I apologize, we're refreshing here as I walk through this. Now, where this really becomes, I think, informative and interesting for us from a policy perspective is when we start looking at what's been happening with the people who've been managed for more than a year in this portfolio. So who's been visited, who hasn't? Who's been solicited, who hasn't, and this leads us to sort of this red area right here. So this is really our trouble area, and so as we're sitting with our gift officers and we're doing our portfolio reviews, this is where we zero in really quickly. Is okay, these people have been managing your portfolio for over a year. They have not been visited in the last 12 months. They have not been solicited in the last 12 months. Neither have they been contacted in the last 12 months. So you can see here we've got 20 folks who really haven't been worked at all by this particular officer in that 12-month period. So this is where that policy kicks in and we start to have a discussion about, okay, are you really the person who should be managing these people? Do you have the bandwidth to manage these people? Let's start to get some strategies together and work collaboratively and decide, okay, do we need to move these people out, move them to another gift officer, or what actions do we need to do here? So that at a high level is how this dashboard is put together and how it's read. Now we have built some functionality into this. First, you can see that we can filter by every gift officer on the development team currently. So you can pull up anyone's portfolio. But secondly, we've made this dynamic. So this is a drill through report. So I can come here and say, all right, show me those 20 people. And I can click on that and it will pull up a matrix that shows us exactly who those 20 individuals are. So we can sort of flawlessly hold that conversation without having to break step or move to another report or pull something up somewhere else. So that's a really nice feature of this particular dashboard report that we put together. So the things that are interesting, at least for us in our conversations, obviously, is, is this individual a primary manager on these prospects? Are they a secondary manager? Obviously, who is the household? And then just some of these key dates that we were talking about to help inform some of the discussion about, okay, what actually has been happening here? Where have our efforts been focused, and what can we do to better engage this individual? And then, of course, our adjusted capacity and our target amounts here. We've also built some functionality into this. So if I want to go back to the main dashboard, I just come down and click on this link, and it will return us to the main dashboard, so we can pick up where we left off and carry on with that decision, or discussion rather. So let me show you now a little bit about how this was constructed. Give this just a minute to load for us. So as you can imagine, those of you who have used Tableau, there are quite a few worksheets operating behind the scenes here that are powering this dashboard. So the graphic itself that you see on the screen, I actually built that in PowerPoint. So just drag and drop, trying to make the thing look pretty, and then exported it as a JPEG, and then we've imported that as an image. And then we have overlaid on that image individual worksheets. So each one of these numbers here that you see on your screen is a worksheet unto itself that is generating that number and doing that calculation. Now, to help us keep track of what everything was, we've included a map in the workbook itself, just so that we can map back each of these worksheets to the area on the dashboard, to the box that is populating. And we just used a numeric taxonomy here to name these. So you see we go all the way down to quadruple AB3, for example, over here, to A quadruple B3 over here. It's quite the system. But the beauty of this thing is once you set it up, you only have to do it once, and then it runs on its own. So for us, it was worth the initial investment standing this up the first time to get this right. And then I'll just walk you through, for example, the A series here. So here's our total managed households. It's just a distinct count of household IDs that's populating that. Here it's I believe the capacity. So it's just the capacity for the portfolio, right? You get an idea of what we're doing. We're grabbing each of these measures as they pertain to that specific individual, and we're populating it into the dashboard. Now, I will say that doing something like this as it pertains to development or advancement work and getting it to render the way we needed it to render, there was some significant work that happened in the data layer. So there is a specific view that has been built in SQL to populate this dashboard, so we really didn't have to focus too much on, okay, Tableau, we need you to do all these different calculations for us. So the reporting layer here really isn't that sophisticated, apart from sums against these measures that we've predefined in the data layer using that SQL view. So a lot of the business rules, a lot of that business logic still lives in SQL. That being said, Tableau provides us just a really nice wrapper, if you will, to quickly present this information in a way that is visual and intuitive, to where anyone can come in and with very little introduction navigate this thing and understand what the story is that it's trying to tell us. So I'm actually going to stop there for just a minute and see if there are any questions. I'm happy to dive into any particular part of this if there's interest as to how we put it together.
Yeah, Ron, or John, sorry, there's been several questions. I've tried to take note of them for you. The first question is, who primarily uses this dashboard?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our prospect research team holds a series of annual portfolio reviews with every gift officer. So that consists of the gift officer, their assigned researcher, and some key leadership people. So it's used in those portfolio reviews. It's also a tool that's available to anyone at any time. It's published on the website. So, you know, a gift officer can go out and grab this at any time and see exactly what's happening in their portfolio. It kind of helps them parse things down and focus on specific areas. But these have also been used in sort of management conversations as well. So a gift officer sitting down with their chief development officer and working through the portfolio and developing strategies. So if you think about it, sort of in those levels, right, it's got a management component to it from the chief development officer down to the gift officers trying to navigate their portfolio, keep tabs of things, and then the prospect researchers as they're fulfilling their role as sort of coaches and sounding boards to the gift officers. So that's a great question.
Kind of along the same line, what was the gift officer's reaction to this dashboard format? And then how long have you all been using it?
Yeah, so this has been live for a couple of years now, and overwhelmingly the response has been positive. We find that gift officers sort of crave this level of transparency, especially where there are policies that govern the way in which their portfolios are managed. So it just lends an air of visibility to that policy in a way that allows them to see specifically for themselves, okay, what is the segment of my portfolio that's going to be impacted by this? Where do I need to pay attention? So the feedback that I've received has been overwhelmingly positive.
Now, is this used for both annual giving and major gift assignments, or how across all the different versions of fundraiser, development officer, MDO, all that stuff uses it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are set up rather uniquely here at UT Austin. You know, there's variants across the industry. This is for major gift and principal gift officer work only. There is a separate apparatus for what we call our discovery officers, and that was a new program launched after this dashboard was built. So we do have some discovery work that happens at the annual giving level, but that is tracked and in a different way, and it's beholden to a different policy than our major gift and principal gift officers.
A little bit on functionality. How often are you updating the data? We also had a question of, is it a running 12 months? Is it fiscal year? Kind of what's the behind the scenes look like a little bit?
Yeah, great question. It's a running 12-month period. So it's not beholden to fiscal years. Like I said, a lot of the calculation work was done in a SQL view. Really to minimize the amount of work that would have to be done in the reporting layer to get to some of these metrics and measures here. But you know, I can show you. Let's zoom in here, perhaps on this page. You see that we've added a number of filters here. So just to keep track and make sure that when we're drilling down that we've got the right segment represented in that view, we've assigned what is essentially a flag to say, okay, this population of this segment of this portfolio at this particular time falls into this population. So we put a bit flag on it, and that's how we're pulling it into the report, is we're assigning that flag. That narrows it down just to the segment that we're interested in for the individual officer, if that makes sense. And there was a third part to that question, Jesse. Did I answer all of that?
I think so.
Okay, good.
So full disclosure, I'm deleting the questions from my list as I ask them. So all right, now we'll keep them highlighted until you're finished.
No worries. If I missed that, feel free to put in the chat.
Oh, the data refresh schedule. Thank you, Bev.
Oh, yeah. This refreshes nightly. So this is, it's not shown here because this is changed out to some fake data. This is actually a published Tableau data source that refreshes from the source Oracle view on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and since it's public, I believe, John, are you planning on putting it out there, a link to this for their? Yes,
that's the plan, is that we'll link this out.
Let's see, some questions on specifics. What's your, I think someone got a little bit lost on what the colors were indicating on the dashboard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the colors were just a way to kind of visually draw the eye to areas that needed some attention. So let me go back. So if obviously someone hasn't been visited, they would fall into it. Well, let me start at the beginning. The blue, obviously, it's not germane to the policy. The policy has no effect on total portfolio size or someone's management status. Where we add the red, yellow, green is sort of down here at this level with visits. So if someone hasn't been visited or solicited, we highlight them in yellow just to indicate this is an area that you might want to pay attention to. If it's in green, that means, okay, we're on track. They've been visited, they've been solicited, so we're fine. But really the red is where we spend a lot of our time and attention, is just focusing on these areas where we haven't visited them, we haven't solicited them, and we haven't contacted them.
Can you talk a little bit about your thoughts behind the design, like how you came up with this, and if the fundraisers feel like it's easy to read?
Yeah, so this was put together initially, like I said, this was the brainchild of Juan Garcia, and it was kind of back of the napkin type thing in my office one afternoon. He and I kind of sketched this out and said, it'd be interesting if we could do something like this. And then it went through a number of different iterations. We built a prototype. We got in front of our prospect research team for their feedback. And based on that feedback, gosh, I think we went through 3 or 4 different graphical representations before we landed on this final version here. And like I said, the gift officers, as I've demoed this and as we've used this in a number of trainings, they seem to find it to be rather intuitive. I can't show you the whole thing at a glance here because it would be too small, obviously, on the screens, but we have the legends on there so you can see exactly what it is that they're looking at any given time. So it hasn't been any problem as far as accessibility on our side.
And we have a few more questions I can keep asking on this one specifically.
Yeah, let's take 2 more and then we'll jump over to the other one.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see. One question was how you derived your portfolio capacities, if it was internally or some kind of summation of household level vendor supplied capacities. How do you guys determine your portfolio capacity?
Great question. So we use a hierarchy here for our gift capacity. And it is informed by a number of different sources. So at the top of that hierarchy are internal estimations. So our research team, if they have done the work to do a gift capacity on someone, that is at the top of the hierarchy, and we pull that in as the household's gift capacity. After that, it's informed by vendors. So the ones that I think we're all familiar with, WealthX, GG&A, BWF, have all scored our database. And based on recency of scoring and also our confidence in the scores themselves, the rest of the hierarchy is populated. So what that means is if we have an internal evaluation, we take that. If not, then we take a vendor. If we don't have that vendor, then we take the next vendor, right? Until everyone has a capacity or they're marked as unknown.
Okay, I'm going to use this as the last one.
Right.
How are you counting your visits? Do you have any special formulas to count certain contacts? I know this is something we discuss routinely, especially through the pandemic, and video meetings became the primary source. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so our visits pre-pandemic, we have a contact type that is specific to a visit called a scheduled visit. So to be a visit, it had to be a scheduled visit and had to be in person. That is what that meant. And our research team will regularly spot check the contact reports to ensure that that's being used properly in the way in which we intend it to be. Since the pandemic, we've broadened that definition slightly. So it still includes scheduled visit, but we have now added a contact type for a Zoom or conference call. So they can do a scheduled visit or they can do a Zoom call. So that's loaded in there. And then we have one other exception, and that's for our foundation relations people, because as they're writing proposals, they're not necessarily making visits. So we will count the number of letters of interest that they submit as part of their penetration metrics to their portfolios, to the various different foundations that they manage. Yeah, that's a great question. All right, well, let me keep moving right along then. So this is an example of a report that we would use to manage the prospect pipeline. Now, another report that we have put together is one that we use to actually inform our prospecting efforts. So what we did here at UT Austin 2 years ago is we undertook an initiative to build propensity models for every fundraising college, school, and unit across campus. We have a variety of different models, but these ones specifically were meant to identify individuals who were most likely to give a gift at any time, at any amount. So we're saying based on the activity that we have access to, the factors that we can derive, these are the best likely prospects to make a gift at any level, at any time to this particular unit. So the way we surface these models is in Tableau. And so I'll walk you through that here in just a minute. But first, let me just walk you through a bit of the process here at UT as we do our predictive modeling. So a lot of the predictive modeling, especially when we need it to be something robust, like a propensity model, is done in either Python or R. So we will train the model using one of those programming languages. And then what we do is we will bring the coefficients from the final model into a SQL script and build a view. And that becomes our data layer or our data source for the Tableau report. A couple of drawbacks to this approach. Number one is we're limited to methodologies that play well with SQL, so something that we can go and program into SQL nicely. So a lot of times these are linear logistic regressions that we are doing. But also it just kind of distributes your code base around. You've got your Python, your R scripts you have to keep track of, you've got your SQL script you have to keep track of. And so when it comes time to refresh and manage these things, it can sometimes be a bit of an issue. We are on our roadmap remedying that issue with what we're calling our data modernization initiative. So we are moving to AWS. We're moving our data assets to the cloud so we can take advantage of cloud computing and seamlessly automate and scale our predictives to where they flow nicely from source to report. So what we've done here is you'll notice that the formatting for a Tableau dashboard, this isn't necessarily a dashboard. We've formatted this to print nicely on an 8.5 by 11 piece of 11 size piece of paper. Our folks still love PDFs and they still have to have their PDF emailed to them. So that's one of the constraints that we operate under. So the formatting here, we're not necessarily taking advantage of the entire canvas space on the web browser. But if I were to export this, this would fit nicely, like I said, onto an 8.5 by 11 for printing and distribution. We have taken great care to document our work as we build these models. So the first thing you'll notice is that we've dynamically linked a white paper on the introduction page of this report. So if I come here and click, it shoots out to Box and pulls up the white paper with all of our findings. So there's an executive summary that talks about the things that we looked at, the significant findings. So this is what we would share with a VP or a chief development officer for the unit. Then we break it down into methodology, our sampling, the variables that were considered, and then some performance metrics. So how well did this model perform as we trained and tested it? So we have some confusion matrices, and also we use here where this is a logistic regression, an ROC curve, and the AUC metrics. So anything above 75 is considered decent. This particular model came in at 86.2 for the area under the curve. But anyway, back to Tableau. We've linked that there, so it's a nice resource. It's right at the front. We also have standardized our reporting to require, especially for this type of report, an introductory page, like you see here. So it gives an overview. This is the purpose of this report. And then these are the contents, page 1, page 2, page 3, with any pertinent definitions that are perhaps not already housed in the worksheets themselves. One of the challenges that we inherited here was we were operating off of a Cognos solution And there wasn't this sort of SOP that we include an introduction with all of our reports. So some of them you just got some filters and you kind of had a guess of what you were doing and the purpose and the function of the report. So we're trying to get ahead of that and really document our work here. So page 1 of this report gives us some summary metrics of how well this model is performing rather, and the distribution of our database as it's being scored. So like I said, we built this into a SQL data source. It's a view, which is refreshed nightly. So if you think about that process, if you're familiar with databases and how that works, what that means is that this model, though it's not being retrained nightly, it is being refreshed nightly as contacts are being made, gifts are being made, factors and variables are being updated. We are capturing that here dynamically. So it's fresh every morning for the prospect researcher who's assigned to the libraries to come in and take a look at what activity may have occurred in the previous day. So what you see here right at the top, this is the entire database. Now, obviously, again, this is a falsified data set and anonymized, but what you would see here is for all 1.8 million records in our particular CRM, the distribution of how the individuals have been scored. This is a fairly typical distribution that we would see from one of our predictive models. They tend to be really long-tailed. This one's a little bit odd because, again, it's fake data, but the actual distribution is a little closer to normal than that. So you see here, 0 to 10, these are folks who are predicted to not have any affinity or propensity to give to the libraries. 90 to 100 would be a really strong propensity to give to the libraries. So you see the distribution of the database. We've also included here sort of how the scores play out in the managed versus unmanaged segments of the database. So we say, okay, we've got 81 unmanaged individuals or households rather, who are highly rated as being likely prospects for libraries. So we can really quickly come in here, drill down on those 81 households and start our work as a prospect researcher and say, okay, I need to evaluate and view these people. Likewise, just some interesting FYI, how many of these people are actually donors to libraries already? How many are not? You can see the model does a pretty good job of pulling people who are donors to libraries to the top or front end of the model. And then just kind of the score range down here as well. So what's interesting, and this might take a minute, doesn't take a minute to load, which is nice. Let me zoom out so you can see this a little better. Is we have built a matrix. I apologize if this is a little small on your screens, for everyone who has been scored at 0.5 or 50% or higher, right? So these are the people who we think are likely to make a gift to some degree or another to the libraries here at UT Austin. We've got some filters, right? So we use a pool system here. So before a prospect makes it into a portfolio, they're put into a pool for qualification or disqualification. So if I'm a researcher and I want to start a fresh sort of prospecting list, I can come in and say, all right, who's been qualified, who's been disqualified, and adjust it from there. Are they in a qualified pool? Yes or no, specifics to libraries. I can adjust it from there. I can look at total giving to the library and filter based on that. Overall household capacity, individual capacity, the propensity score, and then some demographics are here as well. So just a couple of filters as we were working with the researchers, they requested to help them slice and dice the data in a way that made sense to them as they were prospecting the house file for their individual units. So we brought across, like I said, household capacity, some of the basic attributes that people would be interested in. And then we have the actual score here. And I apologize, this is me messing around with this yesterday to anonymize it. The actual report is a little cleaner than this. We've got a couple of issues with the column headers. But we have these tooltips that come out and give the actual factors for or against someone being a prospect to the individual unit. So this is taking the coefficients that we derive from the model and indicating to the researcher which of those coefficients this particular individual has and what went into informing that score of 96.8. So here it's interesting because as libraries, I think if I were to summarize our findings around UT libraries is that their donor base or their best likely prospects are those who give widely across campus. So you look here that we've got someone who's rated highly, who's an education donor, geosciences, architecture, communications, those who give to the School of Information Science in particular, which makes sense, right? This is our library school, tend to be really good prospects, as well as faculty and staff. I don't know as though we have any here. Oh, we do up there. Faculty and staff, which makes sense, right? These are the people who are using the library to do their research. These are also good, likely candidates. So we have one of these for each of our colleges, schools, and units across campus to facilitate the prospecting work that's done by the researchers assigned to those units. They are, like I said, these models about 2 years old now, so we're putting in place a strategy to retrain them to make sure that we don't have any significant drift in our predictives. But we use Tableau to surface all of this to our researchers. One final tool that we've added here in this toolkit, if you will, in this workbook is this quadrant, which is propensity against capacity. So this is preset to yes. Let me just flip that to all. So this will update dynamically, and it will tell me, or should tell me once it's done thinking here, that there's about 200,000 prospects currently that have been scored. And then as we think about how a quadrant works, we would want to come down and start our work really at the top right. So these people here are the people that we really want to pay attention to, who have both high propensity and high capacity. So to make this fit nicely in a nice square, we've broken down our capacity ratings and made them numerical here. But I can come in, I can highlight any one of these sections, and I can drill down and see who this individual is in the full data and work my way from there as well. So just another added benefit or little tool that we added for our researchers as they use this report. All right, so that's really all I had to share or to show with you guys. Happy to take any questions on this specific report or anything else.
Any brave souls want to unmute and ask a question, or I can keep going from chat?
Hi, yes, I'll ask a question. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what I was wondering is when we started using Tableau, we basically were kind of trying to replicate some of the reports that we had that we would pull from our database, like our crystal reports.
Yep.
And then we would roll them out. And what would end up happening is our fundraisers and our staff were so used to going to the database, they would just use the database report instead. So what I was wondering was, for these types of reports that you're creating in Tableau, were these replacing existing reports for you, or like do you find that people were being driven to Tableau because of what you had created here?
It's overall it's a mix of both. So I'll speak to these two specific ones first. These were brand new, part of a new prospecting policy. These were not available anywhere else. So folks were driven to it by virtue of that. The custom CRM that we are in is a little light on the reporting side because it is built in-house. It has a couple of list building features. And then it had some legacy report tools, which have had to be deprecated as that system has been upgraded over time. So folks here at UT are fairly reliant on the reporting suite in a rather significant way, perhaps more so than you would be in a Blackbot or a Salesforce, where there are sort of these robust sort of in-tool query features. So really for us, the challenge has been, because so many business processes have been built on top of these reports, has been trying to deprecate legacy solutions. So we are in year 4 now of trying to retire our Cognos solution here at UT Austin. There were 1,300 different Cognos reports when I arrived. I think we're down to maybe a couple of hundred, maybe 60 key ones that we're still working to deprecate. Some of those, as we think about how we're going to convert them and how we're going to replace them, we are trying to create more generalizable type reports in Tableau, take advantage of the filtering capabilities in Tableau to where we don't have to build 13 different reports for 13 different units to show the same data. We just have one report with a filter, so you filter by unit. We're showing people how to come in, subscribe to a view, for example, so they can preset their filters, have that emailed out to them. So that's been a part of our strategy. But really the roadmap here, and it's been a long time coming, has been to retire Cognos completely and move 100% to Tableau just for our own sanity. So we're only maintaining one reporting solution as a reporting team. Does that answer the question, Amber? Okay, great. Great question. Other questions?
I'll jump in here with a few about the dashboard. One question is, how do you handle the performance of this dashboard? Or do you run into performance issues? It seems like there's a lot of information here that would take time to load.
Yes, so we publish most everything as a Tableau data source for that very reason. Otherwise, performance would be an issue. Some of these other reports, not these that I've shown you, but for example, we have an event dashboard that segments the entire database. If that were live, if you could imagine trying to draw sort of segments across the US on a Tableau map, that would just take forever to render. So we publish those as Tableau extracts and then connect to them that way. That has, I will say, created a bit of an issue for us around governance. And that's something that in hindsight, we could have done better at, and which going forward, we are working to do better at. Where now we have sort of this data layer that exists in Oracle, where for some of these heavy hitting reports, we built views. So a lot of the data crunching happens in SQL or in Oracle. Then we surface it to Tableau, so there's maintenance on that. And then there's also maintenance on the published data sources themselves. So I would recommend that as you're looking at sort of the trade-off between performance and maintenance, that you consider your governance structure, and that you build things in such a way that, for example, if your VP comes and says, hey, listen, we need to change this metric. Instead of counting, every other prospect, I want to count every prospect. And so if you've calculated that in the individual data sources or in the individual reports, you're gonna have to go back and update each one of those reports or published data sources or views. So thinking strategically about where you calculate your metrics, having a single source of truth, and then flowing it to your report that way is important as you think about how to roll out your reporting infrastructure using Tableau. Great question.
This is a longer one. I'm going to tease the person that's making me read it. Do you incorporate any vendor predictive modeling data, or have you in the past? If so, have you noticed a difference in quality, predictive success, or overall utility? In general, what is your take on the efficiency of vendor supplied models like Blackbaud, Target Analytics, etc.?
Yeah, I won't speak to specific vendors. I will say that we do partner with vendors for some of our predictive modeling. There are some things that just make sense to outsource. So for example, for our prospect management, there is another predictive model that we have outsourced to score each individual proposal in our system and give us a yay or nay as to the likelihood of it closing. It's a sophisticated algorithm. It's a Bayesian hierarchy that takes into account both the officer and the donor and their various attributes per opportunity or per proposal. That was something that just made sense to outsource. The company had already put it together. It was easier for us to subscribe to than to develop in-house. We have on occasion compared our internal predictive models to external predictive models. So we had an opportunity that came up where our law school was doing a planned giving acquisition campaign, and they had partnered with a vendor to predict plan giving propensity. We already had an internal model. So once we got the results back from the vendor, we compared it to our model. Our model was just as predictive as the vendor. And so I kind of joked with the law school that we could have saved 30 grand and given it to us, and we would have done it for them. But we find that we are comparable with what we can do internally to what's done externally. It just comes down to that equation of efficiency, time, and sort of what we have internal resources to complete at any particular point in time. But yeah, that's a great question.
I think we've probably run out of time for questions, so I think we should probably give the screen share back to Ron.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I'll end quickly by thanking everyone. It's been a privilege to share a little bit about what we're doing here at UT Austin, and really appreciate your questions and your participation. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. That was really, really slick. I think one of the most amazing things about Tableau is whatever you envision, you can create, and you envision something I've never seen before. So that's incredibly exciting. I just want to make a quick plug out for to continue the conversation. There's another really interesting program that's happening with NYU and UT Austin, working with those above. So that's coming up soon. And before we go, I just did a quick, of course, viz of, and I want to do a plug of those who are interested in presenting. I was happy to see that 9% of registrants were interested in presenting. 25 that are like, I think I have something, and 4 who are definite yeses. Those 29 folks are going to be reached out to by John and Mohammed. There's a lot of people to go through. I'm just kind of curious. We had quite a few. We're averaging 4 per week. And who are those people? We have a lot in education. We have a few businesses, other nonprofits. This came about really quickly. This is simplistic, but everything starts right with your coding. Do you have something? Your group. You have your groups here, your EDUs, and this all came from email addresses. Remember, your split function is incredibly powerful. Anyways, of course, that just took like a minute or two, but it's really interesting. I'm so excited that so many of you are interested in presenting and keeping this going. And we are scheduling, or we have scheduled our next TUG event for the same time on November 17th from 12 to 1 Central Time, and it will feature those who are interested in presenting, that 9%, those 29 people and growing. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've come up with. I'd love to thank my fellow user group leaders and all of those who joined us. This is just the beginning of something that is going to continue to grow. I'm hoping that we can get to 1,000+ participants next couple of years, and someday maybe meet in person. I know that's something that seems far off in the distance. Anything else you all like to say, Jesse, John, or Mohammed?
Just thank you to everyone who attended. John, that was amazing. I just can't see how we can fit all the ones that are interested. We may have to change that frequency, but that's a conversation we'll have offline.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have a
for
wonderful
asking
day.
questions and being engaged. We appreciate it.